Hello everyone, welcome to the third live interactive sessions for this course Environment and Development. So you may please tune in and then post your questions if you have any, and I'll be happy to respond. So as we continue with the interactive sessions, I'll quickly summarize what we have covered in the last few weeks. Uh, uh, in the module 10, in module 9, we have dealt with the uh, theme on gender and development. So within this, we have tried to engage with looking at the development theory and gender approach to development, and discusses the various approaches which involve concerning to gender with regards to development, and also engages upon some of the issues within the theme on gender, environment, and sustainable development, how the issue of gender or women occupies an important space when we talk about some of the sustainable development goals vis-a-vis the environmental issues, and how women actually occupies an important space, and the issues which they have encountered, unlike their male counterparts, which often is being ignored. So women in that sense occupies a centrifugal or important space concerning the issues of sustainability, and where they actually plays an important role in trying to engage with issues of conservation, sustainability, uh, well-being, or with regards to lives and livelihoods. And we move on to another module called environment and climate change. So within this, we have look at and uh, cover upon some of the issues, that is how climate change is being uh, situated in the context of this policy framework. What are the climate change protocols and then issues which are confronted with? And we take up an issue, specifically the region called Eastern Himalayas, and delve into why uh, Eastern Himalayas is important, owing to its topographical landscape, and also, more importantly, why the biodiversity is at threat because of its uh, geographical locations. So all in all, we try to look at why many of these communities who are pretty much close in contact with nature, or for that matter the environment, and why they have actually become vulnerable at the uh, time of this, when issues like climate change usually appears. And the vulnerability when we talk about climate change, again, is also different from region to region and community to community. And some communities are much more vulnerable as a consequence of this climate change, because of their social economic background, and their dependence on the environment to a large extent. For instance, if a particular community is pretty much uh, dependent or solely dependent on their natural resources, and in their environment and surroundings, then obviously, because of this climate change, it often lead to the depletion of resources, and as a consequence of which it poses a lot of problem to them with regards to their lives and livelihoods. So therefore, they usually becomes much more uh, susceptible and vulnerable to these climate change and uh, various other issues. And also, as a result of this climate change, we have come across mostly in the eastern Himalayas that uh, flash floods, and then uh, of course the recurrent uh, landslide and so on and so forth. It sort of poses a threat to the local community, their environment, and many of them have actually become, uh, uh, being displaced as a result of all this. And we also, move on to looked at some of the beliefs and knowledge systems, biodiversity conservation and sustainability. And within these, we tried to capture and looked at what ecological knowledge is all about and how biodiversity conservation and sustainability is being situated. So the importance of traditional religions, and then more importantly how nature has been conserved uh, in many of these traditional religions, more importantly because of their practices of socio-cultural uh, traditions, and also at times because of their relations or closeness to natures, the stewardness and uh, the nature culture relations or linkages are often seen because of their rituals and ceremonies, which again is uh, being witnessed in their everyday life in terms of their economic practices, farming practices, so and so forth. So I have also highlighted some of the case study uh, which I myself kind of conducted with regards to how traditional religion at certain point of time has been responsible for the conservation of nature, and how these traditional religions have given uh, an important space to not just nature but also to other beings, to other sentient beings, and also not just human alone. So therefore, many of these traditional communities, their knowledge system reveal that they have give utmost importance or reverence to the non-human beings as well. So it sort of reflected as we had discusses in the beginning of the course on the biocentric egalitarianism. So they advocate and follow these principles of biocentric egalitarianism, wherein they give equal importance and space to other non-human beings as well. So it is also important to see that some of these communities or indigenous communities have uh, conserved nature to a large extent, and because of their farming practices, wherein they practices such as rituals and ceremonies uh, to a considerable amount. Of course, it's not static, but as many of these communities have also evolved over a period of time because of the interventions of the state-led market economy, and because of the rising capitalist markets and so forth. So many of them have been shifting away from their traditional modes of farming, and as a consequence of which it is also observable that many of the traditional knowledge system or religious practices has uh, declined and almost diminished, and which of course again pose a lot of threat to their knowledge system, and it has a further implications and ramifications on the natural resources and environment to a large extent. So it also can be observed and then through my own study that the depletions of resources, and we could also witness forest degradations, and because of the shift from the traditional forms of farming to a much more cash crop or market oriented farm. So these eventually lead to the imbalances in terms of the carrying capacity of the environment. So in the last module, we have engaged looking at the local knowledge in the environment development discourse by trying to contextualize and situate the local knowledge system within the broad framework of this environment development discourse. And over here, we try to engage upon looking at the indigenous knowledge, environment development, the debates which are going around, and of late why many of the environmentalist ecologists and most importantly many of the scientists have given utmost importance to the indigenous knowledge system, which of course again is seen as uh, one of the way in which where an alternative or uh, where nature conservation can be mitigated. So we have also dealt upon the relevance of the indigenous knowledge system by engaging upon the case study, and over here we and looked upon why some of these knowledge system, for example, by taking the case of the Kuki community in northeast India, and looked into how they have sustainably managed their resources uh, before their conversion to the Western Christian religion. Now over here we can situate the debate where we begin looking at why Junior Lin White had argued powerfully in his essay, the historical roots of our ecological crisis, by situating and arguing strongly that perhaps the Western Judeo-Christian religion, to a large extent, is responsible for the ecological crisis which we humans have encountered. So, to a large extent, Lin White argument is true, and I have trying to situate this argument by taking the cases of the indigenous Kuki community. So, as I pointed out that as the traditional society, most importantly, many of these indigenous communities has also evolved to a large extent to move on with the desire and with the need of or seeing or perceiving nature from a utilitarian perspective, and they tends to see nature or resources as something which can be commodified and then which can serve their uh, market oriented uh, purposes. So in this entire course, what we have did was begin with trying to look at some of the important concepts within the environment and development, that is how economic growth, sustainable development, and then various ecosystems functions, and also move on to the notions of what environmentalism is all about, and also looked at the various trends of environmental movement. And in 1960s, because of the seminal works of Russell Persons, uh, where the uh, new trends of environmental movement have begun, and also move on to how environmentalism in the global south is different from that of the north. What are the priorities and how people are very much related in terms of their uh, immediate surrounding, that is the environment. So we have also covered the different approaches to the environment, and more importantly what ecofeminism is all about, the feminist political ecology, and also uh, Marxian uh, ecology or Marxian uh, approaches to environment. So we have also dealt with the debates on environmental ethics. That is more importantly, I've taken three, that is deep ecology, Gandhian ecology, and social ecology. And we move on to religion, environment, and conservation. How religion, environment, and historical roots of ecological crisis are being perceived and situated, and also delve into some of the Eastern religion, that is how biodiversity conservation is situated in the context of religion like Buddhism and Hinduism, and also addresses some of the issues how Christian religion is being interpreted by some of the scholars. And we have also dealt with the natural resource management, how what exactly is natural resource management, and within this we situate the common and uh, private property, this common property versus private property, and also engages upon the livelihoods, forests, and conservations, the interlinkages of these three. And then we move on to displacement, dispossession, and development. So over here we have primarily look at the conservation induced displacement, environment impact assessment, and national rehabilitations and resettlement policy, and also delve into dispositions and land acquisitions. So we have also looked at the mainstream development trajectory. That is how this development trajectory has, whether it has strengthened or weakened the indigenous peoples. So by doing so, we have taken cases of the mining development in indigenous people, and also by taking the cases of the development vis-a-vis the Narmada Dam, the server dam project. And I've also made presented few case studies on dams development and resistance. So these are in a brief summary, we can say that these are some of the themes and modules which we have covered in this course, and I hope you have benefited from what the course content and readings which I have highlighted, and and some of you have requested for PPT or the slides which I have used. Maybe I'll ask the teaching assistants to upload that will make it easier for you to follow the lectures. So in a nutshell, these are some of the things which we have discussed so far, and I'll be happy to respond to your queries if you have any. You can pose it here, or maybe through some other means we can have further interactive sessions, or maybe questions and answers. So I'll stop here, and I wish you all the best for your upcoming final exam. Thank you.